Do you know about all the atrocities that have been committed in Hollywood? Nowadays, it can be more complicated to keep scandals away from the public eye. But back then, when there was no social media or gossip channels whose sole purpose is to report on what celebrities are up to, one could say that it was easier to keep some things in the shadows. However, some scandals were so outrageous that not even the best PR department could have helped keep them under the rug. And that's how we got to know 10 of the most shocking incidents that Hollywood tried but failed to hide. Number 1. When Gloria Graham married her stepson. As you can imagine, this relationship was not seen with pleasing eyes. Although nobody dared to say anything to her face, the whispers of the people who disapproved of it were loud and clear. After all, it was the 60s, but marrying her former stepson, Anthony Ray, proved to be her worst decision. Not just because of the stares or comments she received, but because the industry was truly too shocked to even know what to do. Before the news came out, Gloria had appeared in 5 films with a lot of cultural value, but of course, as soon as everyone found out, her career suffered a slow death. Despite this, Gloria didn't regret marrying her stepson. It was actually her longest and most successful relationship. Number 2. George Reeves's mysterious death. Some death causes are not always what they seem. And that's exactly what happened with George Reeves, an actor from the 50s who was most notably known for his role as Superman in a television series called Adventures of Superman. One day, he was simply found lifeless at his home in Los Angeles. The cause of death? It was attributed to a wound that came from a gunshot. For the police, it was obvious that George could be the only one to blame. A simple case of someone who couldn't deal with the excruciating pressure of being famous and eventually gave up on life. But later, some odd things were revealed, making everyone wonder if George had truly committed suicide. The first thing to notice was that the gun didn't have any fingerprints, something that's virtually impossible in the case of suicide. He also died while he had some guests over at his house. But how come no one had heard anything, right? Maybe they did hear something, but Hollywood didn't want that information to spread out. Another hypothesis suggests that George's death happened because a game with one of the guests went very wrong. We'll never know the full truth, but one thing is certain. Hollywood did everything to downplay George's death by merely focusing on talking about how he couldn't effectively deal with his own personal struggles. Number 3. The Black Dahlia murder. Don't we all wish every crime could be solved? Unfortunately, sometimes justice never arrives. The murderer of Elizabeth Short, a young woman who earned the title of the Black Dahlia, was never identified, making it one of the most infamous and enduring unsolved cases in Hollywood history. It was the year 1947, and the brutality of the crime was staggering, with Elizabeth's body found mutilated and bisected in a vacant lot in Los Angeles. The gruesome nature of the murder and its connection to the city's glamorous social scene sparked intense public interest and speculation. It is known that Elizabeth used to hang out with a lot of influential and powerful people, particularly men in the industry. Naturally, one can only wonder if those people had any reasons to make Elizabeth disappear. Did she see something she wasn't supposed to? After the concerns regarding the city's reputation and even the legitimacy of Hollywood as a safe environment to work, the media seized on the story, often creating crazy headlines that sold newspapers. The Hollywood studios, already wary of any scandal that could tarnish their image, were concerned about being dragged into the controversy if any of their contracted stars or prominent executives were implicated. But despite extensive investigations, no one was ever charged with Elizabeth's murder. They got away with it. Maybe Hollywood couldn't hide the crime, but they may have helped whoever was behind it. Number 4. Olivia de Havilland against Warner Brothers. It was the 1940s and no one saw it coming, but Olivia de Havilland's courageous lawsuit against Warner Brothers was about to spark a seismic shift in the industry's power dynamics. The case, which centered on California's Labor Code Section 2855, also known as the de Havilland Law, challenged the studio's ability to exploit its contractually bound talent. De Havilland, a stalwart of Hollywood's golden age, refused to be silenced by the studio's attempts to extend her contract beyond its original 7-year term. She argued that the added suspension times were a blatant violation of her rights and that the studio's actions were a clear attempt to exert control over her career. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the industry, threatening the very foundations of the studio system. The threat was twofold. Not only would de Havilland's victory potentially empower other actors to challenge their own contracts, but it would also undermine the studio's grip on talent. Fearing the loss of control, Warner Brothers and other major studios were hesitant to support the suit and instead opted to keep a low profile. Despite the odds, de Havilland emerged victorious in 1944, with the ruling upheld on appeal in 1945. The legal triumph sent a ripple effect throughout the industry, leading to a significant shift in the balance of power between studios and actors, allowing the actors to gain more leverage in negotiations, which also led to the flourishing of independent production companies. Number 5. Greta Garbo's romantic life. Greta Garbo, the enigmatic queen of Hollywood's golden age, shrouded her personal life in mystery, captivating the public's imagination with an aura of secrecy. Her numerous relationships, including those with both men and women, were fiercely guarded by the studios and Garbo herself, as any scandals threatened to tarnish her carefully crafted image. The allure of Garbo's mystique was a deliberate creation, crafted to attract and intrigue audiences. Her rumored romances with celebrities like John Gilbert, with whom she shared a lot of chemistry, at least on the screen, and Mercedes D'Acosta, a woman with a lot of power and connections in the industry. But of course, the socially conservative atmosphere of the time, coupled with the studio's fear of damaging her career, ensured that these relationships remained hidden from the public eye. Under the watchful gaze of MGM, Garbo's contract studio, as well as other Hollywood entities, tightly controlled the image of their stars. Nowadays, trying to hide an actor's love life is not an easy task. But at the time, it made sense to keep Greta Garbo's enigmatic personal life hidden. Hollywood perceived any revelations as a threat to her box office success. During her peak, the film industry was governed by the strict moral guidelines of the Hays Code, which not only regulated what could be depicted on screen, but also dictated how stars were expected to conduct themselves off-screen. The wrong move, and a whole project could be endangered. Making the studios go to great lengths to conceal any behavior that could be deemed scandalous. Number 6. Judy Garland, Dark Side of Hollywood Glamour. Hollywood's golden era has a dark side that not many know about, and Judy Garland's story is a chilling example of the industry's exploitation of child stars. At just 13 years old, Garland was lured to MGM with promises of stardom, only to be subjected to an unrelenting amount of pressure and scrutiny. From the onset of her career, Garland was forced to conform to an impossible standard of beauty and talent. Her agency wielded total control over her life, dictating her every move, including her diet and appearance. Studio doctors prescribed her amphetamines to keep her energized during marathon filming sessions, and barbiturates to help her sleep at night. The grueling schedule took a toll on her physical and mental health, as she was expected to work through illness and exhaustion. The studio's relentless pursuit of production schedules left no room for the well-being of its stars. Meanwhile, the studio's public relations machinery crafted the perfect image of Garland, presenting her as a carefree, joyful star. But the reality was far from idyllic. Garland's life was a constant struggle to meet the demands of the studio, while her own needs and desires were ignored. Number 7. Loretta's young secret pregnancy. What happens when unwanted kids are born? Well, if you ask Hollywood, they must remain hidden from the public. In the early 1930s, during the filming of the iconic movie The Call of the Wild, Young co-starred with Clark Gable, a major leading man of the era. Rumors swirled about a fleeting romance between the two, resulting in Young's pregnancy. The stakes were high, as an out-of-wedlock pregnancy would have devastating consequences for an actress's career. To protect her reputation, Young and her studio went to great lengths to conceal her pregnancy. She disappeared from public view, citing illness, and gave birth in 1935. After giving birth, Young placed her daughter Judy in a temporary orphanage, only to later adopt her from the same institution. This carefully orchestrated ruse presented the adoption as a traditional one, leaving Judy unaware of her true parentage for many years. The studio played a crucial role in orchestrating the concealment, aware that the truth could damage not only Young's career but also Gable's and threaten their profitability. Number 8. Hedy Lamarr, shoplifting problem. A lot of people suffer from addictions, but Hedy Lamarr, the captivating Hollywood starlet who was once hailed as the most beautiful woman in the world, didn't have a typical addiction. Lamarr's personal struggles were marked by a series of shoplifting incidents that would eventually tarnish her glamorous image. The first notable incident occurred in the 1960s in Los Angeles, where she was accused of stealing $86 worth of merchandise from a department store. Subsequent arrests followed, each one sparking a media frenzy that contrasted sharply with the controlled and polished persona she had cultivated on screen. In an era when Hollywood's elite often received preferential treatment, Lamarr's troubles were met with a mix of embarrassment and damage control. The industry's efforts to minimize the fallout of her arrests were characteristic of the way Tinseltown handled the personal missteps of its biggest stars. By keeping her shoplifting charges under wraps, studios sought to preserve the mystique surrounding Lamarr's cinematic and intellectual legacy, which had been carefully crafted over the years. Hedy Lamarr's life was a fascinating paradox. While her captivating performances and ingenious inventions left audiences in awe, her personal struggles and controversies were a stark contrast to the radiant image she had cultivated. Her status as a Hollywood icon and trailblazing inventor seemed to be at odds with the polished persona she had carefully crafted, making her real-life flaws and contradictions all the more intriguing. Number 9. Ingrid Bergman's affair gone wrong. Affairs are very controversial, but particularly when they happen between two celebrities. In the late 1940s, Ingrid Bergman got entangled with Roberto Rossellini. At the time, Bergman was married to Peter Lindstrom. Rossellini was also married, and they knew what they were doing was incorrect. But that didn't stop them from seeing each other and having their romantic moments. It all started in a very innocent way. Bergman wrote a letter to Rossellini saying how much she admired him and wished to work with him. Interestingly enough, this interaction led to something much bigger. Bergman was cast to be in his film. That was the perfect excuse to spend time together and flirt around the set. And after some time, a strong relationship had developed between the two. But then it happened. Bergman got pregnant, and right after the affair, rumors came out. Hollywood was really afraid of this scandal because Bergman's image was being affected. No one would keep seeing her in her usual wholesome image. So they tried to convince people that she hadn't done anything wrong. However, the pressure became too intense, and eventually it was impossible to keep in the dark what had happened. Bergman was seen as not suitable to continue working in the industry, so she was blacklisted, something that didn't happen to Rossellini. But luckily for Bergman, she was given another chance 7 years later. And not just with any role, her comeback earned her an Academy Award for her performance in Anastasia. Number 10. Roman Polanski's Life of Illegal Acts. In 1977, Roman Polanski, a renowned film director, was arrested and charged with multiple counts of Child A, including R, S, and drug use. The allegations stemmed from an incident at Jack Nicholson's home in Los Angeles, where a 13-year-old girl named Samantha Geimer was allegedly drugged, and as the sentencing loomed, Polanski's legal team discovered that the judge might disregard the plea bargain and impose a harsher sentence. In response, Polanski fled to France, where he had obtained citizenship in 1976. It's worth mentioning that France does not extradite its citizens, providing Polanski with a safe escape plan. The Hollywood community responded with varying degrees of support and silence. While some celebrities and industry insiders were quiet or even sympathetic towards Polanski, others criticized his actions and called for accountability. Over the years, many have questioned the fairness of the plea bargain and the leniency of Polanski's sentence. However, Polanski's artistic legacy has continued to be celebrated by many in the industry. His films, including Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby, are widely regarded as classics. Some argue that his artistic genius and contributions to cinema justify his actions, while others believe that his crimes are too serious to be mitigated by his artistic accomplishments. We all know how greedy and ruthless Hollywood can be, but the scandals that they tried to hide never cease to amaze us. From covering up affairs, mistreatment, and even crimes, the list is almost endless. It's a stark reminder that the glitz and glamour often hide a darker reality. The fact that scandals continue to surface despite the industry's best efforts to keep them under wraps speaks to the inherent flaws in the system. And we can only wonder, what else are they hiding? What scandal do you think was the most shocking? Leave it in the comment section. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Until the next one.